there's no rules in rock and roll. And if anything, this was inspired by some people I know that are hoarders and literally will hoard an album for 4 years until it's stillborn. And honestly, I like the idea of putting out stuff while I still like it. While I still love it. I mean, I love everything I've done, but, certain things are fresher than others. And man, people are really understanding that this is stuff that I love. This is stuff that I'm excited about. And man, people, they sell. I mean, I'm making money. And the thing that blew my mind is when I did the Waves box sets, they sold better than the CDs.
Rob Ruckus,
Nick Collins,
Kate Clover,
Keith Semple,
Isaiah Mitchell,
Billy Harvey,
Tim Howard. Check it out. Almost Famous Magazine.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Hang, brought to you by Almost Famous Magazine. I'm your host, Scott Saldinger. We're the place to come to hang with artists and go deep into their stories from their origins to today. Get to know them behind the music. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and share. If you've been here with us before, you've come back for some reason, hopefully it's a good one, please tell other people about us. We appreciate the help. Also, if you prefer to take your podcast on the go, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. I'm super excited today. This has been a long time in the making. I think I asked about a year ago, and this is one of the busiest guitar players on the planet right now, and we're going to dive into that today. Fernando Perdomo is one of those rare guitarists who seems to live at the intersection of pop, progressive rock, power pop, and just about every other genre in between. I don't think there's a day that he doesn't post about being creative. He's a Miami-born, LA-based musician, producer, multi-instrumentalist. His credits run from Echo in the Canyon with Jakob Dylan, Fiona Apple, Beck, Norah Jones, Regina Spektor, the late Brian Wilson, and Cat Power, to work with Marshall Crenshaw, Dave Kerzner, who you've seen on our podcast before, Todd Rundgren, who is absolutely an incredible human being, and many, many more. He's not just a hired gun player, by the way, with an incredible resume. No. He's a lifelong music obsessive. I can't wait just to geek out on music today. He's a studio craftsman and a creator constantly chasing the emotional spark that turns great songs into something timeless. So today on The Hang, we're going to dig into his musical journey. So Fern, I appreciate you making time. Welcome to The Hang.
Thanks so much, Scott. Excited to talk.
It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time today. I always start these episodes with your musical journey, your relationship with music. What was the moment that you realized that relationship was starting? And then how has it fed you to where you are today?
Well, I always loved music because I always had music around me, especially for my mom. My mom was a classically trained pianist from Cuba who had traded in piano for journalism, and she was one of the founders of I'm Hero in Spanish. She was also a columnist and a very opinionated person. And she had great taste in music, so whenever she took me to school, I always had great music in my ears. And she knew it was very early that I would be singing along with backing tracks, it's backing parts instead of the lead part. She's like, you're singing the trumpet part. I'm like, that's what I like. So it was very interesting. And then she also introduced me to my first love, which is the Beatles. And then once the Beatles got in my bloodstream, I basically wanted everything. And I was a record collector when I was a kid, mostly because I went to flea markets and thrift stores a lot. So I somehow accumulated over 1,000 records on top of this in high school because I was buying them for 50 cents, $1 max. And I loved all sorts of really cool things at the time, but I was also learning how to play guitar. Now, guitar lessons didn't go far until I started playing a jazz band in middle school, and then it really blew up in high school because my high school had the best music program ever. Standing Doug Burris, who was he was a band teacher who ended up getting multiple sclerosis. After, by the time I started taking lessons of it in school, he was quadriplegic. So he couldn't play an instrument. However, he could teach guitar, rock ensemble, and recording studio. And I was Peter's pet. I mean, we had a lot of similar influences. He got me into a lot of great music, and he saw something in me And I ended up becoming the guitar player for anybody who knows high school rock ensemble. We were doing Sgt. Pepper as a show by the time I was a junior. We even also wrote our own music and played, as a working cover band by the time, before I was even able to go to clubs. And that was an incredible experience. And then right after high school, I joined 1,000 bands and started playing all over Miami, Florida, where I was. And eventually I got discovered by a dude from Colombia named Nicholas Tovar as a songwriter. And he loved my guitar playing and brought me in to play on demos for his Latin pop songs that he was writing. And one of those songs got into the ears of a guy named Christian Castro. And Christian not only liked Nicholas's song, he loved my guitar playing. And now in the age of Pro Tools, all they had to do is just work from the demo and create the final master. So I ended up playing on a #1 hit when I was 20 years old, which was huge for me. And then he brought me in on the rest of the record, which was produced by Estefan. By Emilio Estefan. So, and I did the tour for that record. I was on the Midas, Love Is by Christian Castro. And I had a pretty budding career playing on Latin records. I played for Paulina Rubio. I did a TV show with Juanes. I played on a big #1 for a guy named Don Omar. And then all of a sudden, I realized that I'd hit the glass ceiling because nobody was really getting signed in Miami. There was really nothing going on in Miami. And I didn't want to end up having Latin music be my calling card. Because I'm a rock musician. So I said, I'll move out to LA, and downgrade. And I don't mind working with better musicians at a lower level. But LA's turned out to be everything I ever wanted, everything I've ever been warned about. So I flew out to LA, and within 2 years, I was in the ears of a guy named Andrew Slater, who was putting together an album at the time called Echo and Came In. I recorded the album, and then 4 years later, it turned to a movie. And just in one shot, I worked with Fiona Apple, Eric Clapton, Neil Young, Stephen Stills, Beck, Norah Jones, Regina Spektor, Cat Power. Did shows with Roger McGuinn and Jackson Brown and Michelle Phillips and Mamas and Papas. And that was an incredible experience. Then the pandemic hit, and I really started working on becoming a producer. And I've been a producer all my life, basically. I've always recorded people in my studios, but I really took that seriously. And now it's my job. Every day I've got people coming in making records in the studio. So that's the key there. I am a musician that loves to work with other people, but the whole time I've been making my own music. Even since Miami, I had a project called Dream Mysterio that did really well. I had a couple bands in Miami that did really well, and I've always worked on my own music. I put out dozens and dozens of albums. And then recently I started doing an album a month, doing this music, which has been a real surprise because it's been some of my most celebrated and sold projects. People are really hooked to getting new music from me every month. So I did Waves last year and I did Clouds this year. I've got a new project with a drummer named Kravitz called Perdomo Kravitz Project, which is really, really cool. And then right before this interview, I'm working on Charlene Torino's new rock opera project that I wrote sort of a really awesome songwriter named Sarah Mealing. And it's got Todd Rundgren on it, and a lot of really famous rock musicians, as well as some up-and-coming people. So, I've got a pretty full plate of things that are going on. And then I also wrote Marshall Crenshaw, which has been a dream game for me. What I tell people is that it's a Paul McCartney level gig at a different level. Because honestly, my pantheon of in my Hall of Fame of rock songwriters, Paul and Marshall are very close. I love them and influenced me since I was a child. So to be able to work with Marshall is a dream come true, for sure.
Well, I will say that getting a chance to see that you all performing, and there are many artists who have been around a very long time, Marshall included, where the longer they get in their career, You can see some downtrending, but let me tell you something. That room was on fire. I mean, every step between the vocals and the musicianship on that stage, it was a treat for everybody who got to see you here in the Dallas area for sure.
It was a joy, and it was a lot of fun. And and that band, we've been a band together now for 4 years. On June 30th will be our 4-year anniversary of playing shows together. So we've gotten really tight, and we also are very tight friends and very simpatico of each other. It's been a real blast playing with Mark, Derek, and Marshall. So you saw a very special thing that's going on right now. And funny enough, somebody bootlegged that show, and it's on YouTube. It's not video. It's just like really good audio, and it sounds amazing. I sent it to everybody, and they were very impressed because it did sound really great and went over. And we had a great time. And there was also the excitement of being the first show of the tour. So we were really excited.
I haven't seen it on the recording on YouTube or anywhere, but I'm gonna have to check it out. I mean, that room in and of itself, given that it's not there's really no brick, there's not a lot of metal in the roof, it's all wood. The sound was incredible.
Yeah, well, it's a real venue that's really awesome, and it was awesome. We just had a great vibe that night, and we had a blast. And the rest of the tour was great. We've done almost 10 tours together, a little more than that. And we've done some really, really great things. And I love playing with Marshall. He's one of my favorite guitar players. And when he asked me to play guitar for him, I'm like, "Wait, you play guitar?" He's like, "Oh, I want a second guitar player so I can focus on my singing." And it really meant a lot to me because I hope he notices how much of his playing and writing is in my DNA. It's pretty big.
Absolutely. I mean, given that he started his career out playing in Beatlemania, and you have a passion for the Beatles, there's a lot of connective tissue there. For sure.
Big time. And, I remember, and one of the things that I don't ever mention to him because I don't want him to feel old or anything, but when I got my first car, the album that was stuck in the CD player constantly, because I was always listening to it, was a live album he put out called My Truck Is My Home, which is super-powered live recordings from the Life is Hard record tour and the early 90s tours, as well as some interspersed stuff in the original trio. But it's really awesome guitar playing, really awesome singing. And I remember listening to it going, I wish I could sing like him, I wish I could play guitar like him, I wish I could write songs like him. And, eventually it dawned on me, and I'm like, wow, I'm on the CD now, it's like, it's pretty cool playing a lot of the same songs. My favorite recording from that record is My Favorite Waste of Time. And I actually learned Tom Teeley's guitar solo, both Tom and Marshall's guitar solos in that song. So when I played the solo, it's very inspired by the Tom Teeley thing, as well as the version of Fantastic Planet of Love on their record, which also blew me away. And we play both those songs every night, so it's an absolute blast. I told them eventually we have to do his cover of Knowing You by ABBA. It's on their record. It's really cool. He's always given people what they don't know they want.
No, it's certainly a treat, and the mix of the songs, including some of the covers that you guys performed, were tremendous. Can I ask you? Sometimes I want to know if someone's had like a kind of a pinch me moment in their career. Like, how did I get here? How did the world come together? With all these experiences that you've had, is being in this group with Marshall kind of that, or have you had another moment that was really distinctive that you're like, you know what, I've worked and I've worked and I've worked to get here, and I finally feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be?
Playing Roundabout, Your Move, and Wonder Stories with Yes at the Alan White tribute. That story is crazy. Basically, Alan White, Yes's drummer, passed away 4 years ago this week. And there was a tribute concert. And I had been working with Yes's manager through his label, Spirit of Uniform. And I asked him, very innocently, is anybody doing anything off of Ramshackled, which is Alan White's first solo album, which I love? And they're like, no. It's like, well, that needs to be remedied. And I have an idea. Maybe I could do Song of Innocence with John Davison. Yes. And he loved the idea. So I was only supposed to play on 2 songs that day. I was going to play acoustic guitar, that's a duet with John Davison of Yes, doing Song of Innocence from Ramshackled. And then he asked me if I would play acoustic on a song called To Ascend, which is another Yes song that was co-written by him with a choir. Now, I remember a couple people saying, you're just going to bring an acoustic guitar? I'm like, that's what I've been asked. Well, it turned out to be a real blessing because I was the only acoustic guitar in the house. So next thing you know, I got asked to play on Wonder Stories. Next thing you know, I got asked to play on the big finale, which was Imagine, where the first time ever John Davison and Trevor Rabin sang together. And then the big one. Yes was ready to sound check, and by the way, Steve Hill decided to not come because it was still not long after COVID, and he decided not to risk it. So they had another guitar player that was going to play with Yes, and he wasn't there yet. And I said, I know Roundabout, and I proved it. We ran Roundabout with just an acoustic guitar. And they loved it, and they had an idea and said, well, why not have 2 guitar players? So I played the intros, the acoustic guitar part all the way through, and it was an incredible experience. Then they added me to Your Move, playing the intro. But Yes is in my top 5 favorite bands of all time. And it's a very, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because really, it's a completely impossible situation because in the history of Yes, they've only had 4 guitar players. 3. Peter Banks, Steve Howe, Trevor Rabin. And, for me to fill those shoes somewhat. And it's on YouTube, and it's going to be released in a movie about the night. That's in the works. But, that's an I'm not worthy situation, too, because, I am no Steve Howe, I am no Trevor Rabin, I'm not even a Peter Banks, even though I've been compared to Peter all my life. But, it was it was an incredible experience that I was prepared for, that I had no idea that I was going to get put in that position. So yeah, there's a recording of Roundabout by Yes. I got to play with the current lineup, which is Jeff Downs and the Buggles in Asia on keys. Also, Yes's drama era, and been the keyboard player of Yes for the last decade and a half. John Davison, who's been the lead singer now for over a decade. Billy Sherwood, who's been the bass player now for almost a decade. And Jay Shellen, who's been the drummer since Alan died, actually since a little bit before Alan died. So it was an incredible experience. George Singleman also was on stage, and it was a cool thing. It was just amazing, and I still can't believe it happened.
I'm the hair on the back of my neck is going up because that just sounds amazing. And my closest run-in with Yes, other than seeing them from an audience, was literally getting stuck in an elevator with both Chris's and Trey on the Big Generator tour in Rochester, New York. We got stuck between floors in an elevator going up to the nightclub. And as soon as the elevator started moving, because it was almost like, when you see the Three Stooges kind of bumbling around together, and they just keep running into each other. We're all trying to figure out what's going on. It was before cell phones. And as soon as the doors opened, they made for the exit. They were out of there. And we just had a moment. But that's an incredible story. It's actually, I've got I got something I want to do with you during our conversation, but I think it's going to be harder now. And I had it kind of as an idea later, but we're just going to free flow this thing today and go from there. Because you are such an aficionado of playing and performing, and you know so much music. And I was wondering, in no particular order, if you had to rank them, but I think I can get an idea where this is going to go. I was thinking from a prog rock standpoint of amazing, incredible guitarists, Steve Howe, Dave Gilmour, Robert Fripp, Alex Lifeson, and Steve Hackett. In no particular order, what would your order be in the grand hierarchy of those prog rock guitarists? And have I missed someone that you feel should be in that 5?
All 5 of them are worthy, but they're not. 2 of them are not in my top 5, and no disrespect for them. But I would include Peter Banks as being the architect of prog rock that I think really my opinion. I love Steve Howe, but Peter Banks created the style of Yes guitar player, which then moved on to a lot of different things. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely include Andy Latimer, from Camel. My God, I think I love David Gilmour, but I'll take Andrew Latimer even more. Just amazing, amazing guitar player that just blows my mind. I did a whole tribute album to Camel with kind of Ian Goff, and I mean that I love when guitar players feel like the guitar's singing. Like I'm a lifelong Jeff Beck fan, and I'll take that over speed anytime. And I love Alex Lifeson. One of my favorite songs of all time is a song called "Tears" by Rush. But in general, it's like and I love the solo on Limelight and all that different stuff. But I've always kind of shied away from anything that had a little bit of that metal feel, and I feel like Rush definitely are one of the biggest influences of metal. A lot of riffs, a lot of that Led Zeppelin style thing, but I've always gone for guitar players that really great parts. I'll take parts over anything. My favorite song of all time is "Maybe It Remains" by Paul McCartney and Wings and Paul McCartney. And that guitar solo is everything I ever wanted. And it happens. It's so good it happens twice in the song. And if it wasn't for Wings Over America, I wouldn't be sitting here, because that's the record that really said, I want to do that. I want to be Jimmy McCulloch. I want to be Paul McCartney. When I grow up. But as far as prog guitar players that blow my mind, I mean, Todd Rundgren needs to be included too, because even though Todd that didn't solely play prog, his prog guitar playing was incendiary. That first Utopia album, Another Lives, all those great records, Loops Wrong Planet, Adventures in Utopia, all the way, to playing on the Meatloaf records. Someone was playing, the album Word Babies by Hall & Oates is my favorite album of all time. And that's a prog record. And he's going crazy on his guitar on that record. Because, you take all these people, all these great players. Robert Fripp is a huge influence on me. Adrian Belew is a huge influence on me. Steve Hackett's a huge influence on me. But younger players, we create a style based on multiple artists. Robert Fripp is a Robert Fripp style guitar player. I've never heard him do the David Gilmour thing. I've never heard David Gilmour go crazy on guitar like Robert Fripp. But like when I'm playing with Kerzner, I have to wear a lot of hats and I have to replicate a lot of parts. And you have a lot of guests on the album. So like when I'm playing with Dave, I'm playing Steve Hackett solos, I'm playing Francis Dunnery solos, I'm playing stuff all over the place. So, there's a certain versatility in what I do that might not be something that, these guitar players with voices of their own, And I've also done a lot to create my own voice. But look, that's a very valid top 5. But there's guys that I like that I feel need to be in the top 5, like Peter Banks and John Rundgren, Andy Latimer, guys that just blow my mind. It's just really, really great. Man, the cool thing about prog is that there's so many types of prog, and there's so many incredible musicians that have, massive fan bases on their own. Alan Holdsworth, UK. Come on, that stuff is incredible. A major influence on my guitar playing is violinists. I love Jean-Luc Ponty, I love Eddie Jobson, I love Robbie Steinhardt, Hell, Kansas is a perfect example of a band that took multiple influences and created your own style. It's amazing. You'll be amazed of how much Gentle Giant influenced them, how much Curved Air influenced them, how much Yes and King Crimson and Caravan. Oh man, I love Caravan. And that's a perfect example of a guitar player that's never talked about. Pi Hastings and Jeff Richardson, both incredible musicians. And the cool thing about Caravan is that they were sort of a jam band, but they never showed off too much to the point where, okay, they're masturbating. No, everything was to the song. And one of the most breathtaking recordings of all time is the opening of For Girls That Grow Plump in the Night. That whole first side. It's just, man, it's perfection. Every section, every drum beat, every guitar part, every bass part, every vocal, every lyric. It's just amazing at how the songs kind of flow together, kind of like an Abbey Road type of way. It's awesome, I love that stuff.
Let me ask you this: about your sound though, because you brought up some very valid points, right? There are people who can create their sound and that is distinctive to them, but they can't do or be anything else. You are phenomenally versatile, yet you do have the sound of your own. It's on your solo work, it's on your other albums. But I do want to go back to the Dave Kerzner thing, because you mentioned he's having you play, parts that were created by others, right? But I'm curious, when you play his song Into the Sun.
Yes.
Talk to me about the madness and musical insanity that happens at the end of that. How did that start? I mean, to me feels like you.
I have to mention this. When Dave first brought me into the project, his plan was for me to do the heavy lifting as far as rhythm guitars and parts, and then bring in a bunch of guests. Then he realized that, I had a voice all my own and that I was perfectly capable as lead guitar player. And then I ended up taking lead on a lot of the record. But for example, when we went to go mix the song Stranded with, Lord Algene, Jeff Lord Algene, it was crazy because it's like, well, what's this? It's like, well, that's Fernando Perdomo. It's like, you're having the solo during a Steve Hackett solo? It's like, yeah, they're kind of battling. And it was very interesting because, who's this kid? Who's this unknown? And I'm really happy that Dave took a chance with me because, me and Dave are really kind of a duo project. I've been on every single one of his records and pretty much every single one of the songs. And Into the Sun is one where I played all the guitar parts. And it's really cool because there's a combination of atmospheric phaser guitar and Leslie guitar. There's slide, and then there's like this crazy guitar solo at the end, which really it's like, I took the idea of Into the Sun, crashing into the sun, and creating something that sounds like a guitar that's on fire. Exactly what it is.
And it certainly has impact if you're going to be crashing into the sun. It certainly has impact. Tell me the story.
Explosive.
Yes, absolutely. You and Dave, how did this come together? How, you're from Miami.
Miami, Florida. Miami. No,
did you grow up
Dave
together?
and I met. No. Dave and I met from happenstance and also from a t-shirt. This is a good story. There was a guy named Randy Fuchs who runs something called artistrelations.com, which is a company that gets artists to work with companies for endorsements. And at the office in Miami, there was a meeting scheduled with me to discuss Dreaming in Stereo, working with, at the time, Hagstrom guitars and Moog and a bunch of different things. And when I got there was a meeting in progress, so I waited in the reading room, and that meeting was with Dave Kerzner. Dave Kerzner walks out, and I'm wearing an ARP synthesizer shirt. And he says, "Who the hell are you?" And I told him I'm Fernando Perdomo from Dreaming in Stereo. It's a prog rock project, and I gave him a CD. And 2 days later, he called me and says, "I love your record, We got to talk shop. Tell me about your Mellotron. Tell me about your Moog. Tell me about your synths. And I said, well, honestly, I'm poor, and I have something called a Roland XP 30. That was the vintage card. And he says, oh, that explains it. That's my Moog. That's my Mellotron. That's my synths. It's all my samples. So we immediately became friends. And he always thought in the back of his head that I should be working with him. Either the Sound of Contact project, and when that when that fell apart, it was very successful. But when it fell apart, he really wanted to prove himself as an artist. And he brought me in to play guitar on his record because, Dave plays guitar, but he's not a lead guitar player. So he brought me in, and suddenly we're working on this album, New Worlds. And funny enough, I had moved to LA already. So I was down in Miami visiting family, and I started working on that. And the first tracks that I played on were Stranded, New Worlds, and Nothing. And Nothing was interesting because I sent him a bunch of tracks, and he didn't know what was going on. And at first was like, kind of, what is going on here? But then when he heard everything with the track, he was blown away so much that he ended up giving me co-writing credit and creating a whole new section based on my guitar parts. So that's when we knew that we were definitely onto something. And, if it wasn't for the fact that he had had such a bad experience in a band with Sound of Contact, maybe Dave Kerzner should have been a band. But it ended up being Dave Kerzner, and I'm perfectly fine with that, because really, Dave is very, very key, is overqualified to be an artist of his own. And I've known this forever, and he's always been a sideman. He used to play with Kevin Gilbert, and he's worked with a bunch of other artists as a sideman. But, I love his voice, and I love his songs, and I think he should be doing more, actually, But, he's got a lot of things going on, and we've got a new record, actually, that's going to be coming out hopefully soon. It's really great, so, it's good stuff. Dave is in the category of people I work with that push my boundaries, and I love that. They get extra stars because, honestly, the best result out of working with me is in a creative situation. And that's actually really cool about Marshall, that even though I'm playing a lot of his stuff note for note like the records, there's a lot of stuff where he's letting me do my thing. And it's really become a whole new monster. And, I think he wanted that because he had a lot of guitar players come in saying, okay, this is a rockabilly gig, this is a power pop gig. And, I know I play those styles, and I've been in situations where I've had the clamp on, like I was in an Americana project where I had the clamp on, but the clamp is off with Marshall. The clamp is definitely off with Dave.
Well, I can tell you, as a photographer, I look for the things that a lot of people miss, because when you're performing, you're a body in motion. And I look for that split second to catch something, and the look on your face so many times, and the joy that you can read into your expression when you're in that moment tells the whole story. I mean, you are loving that moment and what you're giving to the song. So it's visible. What I see is that people miss those things like that, but I was excited to capture that, because there's just there's a look on your face when you perform. That it reminds me of the photographing you reminds me of when I photographed, I don't know if you know Giz Laszlo, but Giz was drumming with LA Slumlords at Punk Rock Bowling. And drummers are challenging to photograph because their faces contort, right? There's a reason there was Animal the Muppet. And a lot of times they famously will have their tongue flopping out of their mouth, like they're a puppy coming up to a bowl of water. But I have this one photo of Giz Laszlo where he is looking like the kid who got the greatest Christmas Day gift in the world. This big smile, right? And you miss that as a body in motion. When I was photographing you, I got a couple of photos like that, and certainly noticed that you have that expression, that passion and love for what you're doing. So it's great to hear that. And to hear that you were Nothing might be my absolute favorite Dave Kerzner song. If I can be perfectly honest, I love Nothing.
Song. I love that song because it could have been, it could have been very linear, like a 80s Genesis song, but I wanted to give it that craziness, and that really could be, man. I mean, if Genesis was like that, I mean, that probably would have been like, what if Steve Hackett stayed in Genesis in the 80s, because it has that vibe, but it also has that craziness, and man, I just had a blast with that one because I was listening to the lyrics and I'm like, this song requires something more dramatic. And I did it. It was a lot of fun. But man, I love working with Dave. He's great. And through Dave, I've had a few other pinch me situations, like playing guitar next to Steve Hackett on stage. Playing guitar next to Francis Durnery on stage. We did a tribute to Greg Lake on Cruise to the Edge, and I got to play with Sonia Christina of Kerzner, who is childhood love. I mean, this is a woman that I've looked up to my entire life, and to be on same stage with her playing Sylvie was absolutely mind blowing.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: the idea of doing an album a month, right, is a crazy ambitious endeavor. I mean, that on top of everything else you're doing, that is a very ambitious endeavor. But, you mentioned that you grew up, like me, with albums, and we have evolved musically as a society to where the art of an album listen is lost on many. A lot of shufflers out there. Do you feel by doing an album a month that it is helping you in this day and age of keeping people focused on a piece of music? Do you feel the pressure of the fight for the constant product, right? And that creative flow? What keeps you going to say, every single month, I'm releasing this and I'm building this catalog that is some of your greatest music?
You know what? There's no rules in rock and roll. And if anything, this was inspired by some people I know that are hoarders and literally will hoard an album for 4 years until it's still boring. And honestly, I like the idea of putting out stuff while I still like it. While I still love it. I love everything I've done, but, certain things are fresher than others. And man, people are really understanding that this is stuff that I love. This is stuff that I'm excited about. And man, people, they sell. I mean, I'm making money. And the thing that blew my mind is when I did the Waves box sets, they sold better than the CDs. People just love the idea of getting 12 albums, a signed photo and a nice box, with pics and stuff in it. It sold really well. So I'm excited to do the Clouds box set. My Cloud 7 now. I'm working on Cloud 7. Cloud 6 just came out. And I'm already thinking of something for next year.
Well, and soon enough you'll be on Cloud 9.
That's right. That's very funny, Cloud 9. But, that's the first time somebody's mentioned that. So I think I need to call Cloud 9. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. And no offense to George Harrison, but still, the thing about it is, I have conversations with. See, here's the beautiful thing about being a record producer. It's the same beautiful thing about being a hairdresser. You get to talk to dozens of people a week, and it's great because I have conversations about the music industry. And there was this one guy who won't be named, who was like, you're over-releasing, you're oversharing, you're overdoing it. You'll never be able to make it because you're competing with yourself, blah, blah, blah. Well, I just happened to, he's like, well, how many Spotify listeners do you have? And I looked up on Spotify. And by the way, I quit Spotify when David Crosby told me to. So I haven't been doing any Spotify promotion or anything. But I've got over 6,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. And his mouth was open. He's like, how? And I'm like, I guess people like me, So it's I'm very selfless about it, and I have to say that those 6,000 Spotify listeners was done with zero engagement, zero promotion, zero pay to play, zero bots. I'm just making music and people are digging it. And that's truly rewarding because, fame has been bought many a time. I'm not that person because I've never been rich. I've never done drugs, so I have money to buy guitars, but I've never been rich by any means. So I'm just a hardworking Cuban kid from Miami, trying to make a name for himself in the biggest music city in the world. Doing things wrong because all the other guitar players I know, their dream is to play with Chapel Roan or Lady Gaga or Pink, and I'd be stupid to say no if they came along. But honestly, I'm more excited about working with Todd Rundgren. I'm more excited about the fact that I've produced 4 Andy Pratt records. I'm more excited when I'm having, weekly conversations with Tim Moore or, David Bullock of Space Opera or, discovering new music that I've never listened to before that's either modern, under the radar, or I love it when I discover 70s music that I've never heard of. Like Florence Warner was my latest obsession. She was a singer-songwriter from the 70s that sang on countless TV jingles. She was the voice of Jam and the Holograms. And she did a bunch of commercials, but she put out 3 amazing records as a solo artist and did a duet with Denis Rousseau's of Aphrodite's Child. And her first record has the best Todd Rundgren cover version of It Wouldn't Make Any Difference that I've ever heard. And she also, on the same record, covers Remember by Harry Nilsson. She does a Dan Fogelperson. She does, she was one of the first people to cover Kenny Loggins. It's pretty freaking cool. And she's amazing. And she died young sadly, but she had an amazing, amazing voice. And beautiful woman too, so that always helps.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I mean, one of the things I love about just doing this entire type of conversation is learning about what else is out there, right? And especially I think today because we've the humanistic side of sharing with one another has always been more rewarding than the just find it out on the internet kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Share it with other people, give it to other people. Music is a gift. Creativity
Absolutely.
Is a gift. And I love that you quit Spotify too, because I mean, every art doesn't come for free. And the fact that you've cracked the code in your own way to make money on these albums, I think is tremendous. So let me ask you this. You've got a huge catalog. You've got the Fernando sound. If I'm watching us right now and I know nothing about you, are there 2 or 3 songs in your artistic catalog that are yours that if music was a meal and there was an appetizer and a main course and a dessert, are there a couple of songs that stand out to you that you feel kind of define you? And if someone was going to start, what would they be and why should they start there?
Well, here's the tough part. When I was in Miami, I was actually more visual as a bass player because I was in a band called DC3 that was very popular. And then people would be surprised when I played guitar. The opposite is happening in LA. People are surprised when they see me play bass. They actually know me as a guitar player and producer. Same thing goes with my music. My most successful music has been instrumental. I am very picky about singing. And, I have a good voice. I sing in tune. I'm a great harmony singer. But, I would never hire myself. That's why I've always kind of done projects with singers and stuff, because I know what I'm really great at. And singing is not one of those. But, have people think of me as an instrumental prog rock guitar player? who puts out these instrumental progressive rock records, because my most successful project was Out to Sea. It was 4 instrumental prog rock records that I put out through Spirit of Unicorn, Yes's label. And the good news, I'm working on more. Yay. But I also have a singer-songwriter. And, so, okay, as far as a singer-songwriter, the song that's been my ultimate song is called Home, or Home is Wherever You Are. And, we had these terrible wildfires about a year ago. And I had no money to donate to my friends' GoFundMes and to charity. So I decided to do a charity single with Home is Wherever You Are. And I ended up raising $5,000 for local GoFundMes and charity, the Musicians Fund charity, Music Cares. So it went to the right thing. So, hey, the power of music, it's pretty cool. So Home would be number 1. Number 2 is a song called The Architects, which is track 1 of Out to Sea 1. And that's my tribute to Peter Banks. And that's one of the best progressive rock things I've done. That's a perfect example of my guitar playing. Number 3, I'm going to go ahead and pick something off of the new Pernilla Kravitz record, which I'm extremely, extremely proud of. It's called the Canyon Trilogy. And it's a combination of 3 songs, a song called Harmonics and True Love, a song called Meet Me Down on Love Street, and a song called I'm Free. And it's a perfect example of, taking the Echo and the Canyon concept and putting it down in the song, because it's all songs about love in the Royal Canyon. And, I think that Adrian Belew is a big influence on me, because I first discovered him as a King Crimson fan. And when I first heard Discipline, I was like, this ain't my King Crimson, where's the Mellotron? I'm not a huge fan of 80s guitar sounds, so I don't like chorus pedals and stuff. And it was just so alien to me. And I was just like kind of, And then I've discovered a lot of records from dollar bins, cutout bins, and I found a cassette tape of an album called Inner Revolution by Adrian Belew. And that album blew my mind and kind of conditioned me to be able to accept Adrian's King Crimson project and stuff. And the thing about Adrian, the why I'm mentioning him right now, is Adrian showed me that you could be a legit prog rock musician and still love the Beatles and still be able to write good pop songs. And man, there's a song on Inner Revolution called The War in the Gulf Between Us that is Beatles quality pop songwriting. That song is amazing. There's so many songs on that record that are absolutely stellar. And, it set a level of excellence that I want to meet. And, I wouldn't be putting out with the success of the prog stuff I do, I wouldn't be spending so much time on releasing singer-songwriter stuff and writing stuff like rock operas, because I know that it's not all of me, And in fact, I've been asked to do a show in February in Miami, in a beautiful amphitheater, an outdoor amphitheater, and they're asking me to do a combination of the prog stuff and the singer-songwriter stuff. And that's cool, because I'm going to be doing that on the Blue Cruise coming up in April, where I usually do a yacht rock tribute, but Ambrosia doing their yacht rock thing. So I'm actually going to put together the ultimate Fernando Perdomo show, where you'll hear Out to Sea stuff, you'll hear wave stuff, but you'll also hear, what I can do as a singer-songwriter. Because it's pretty interesting that, I don't want to name names, but a lot of these prog rock people, I've never heard any, classic pop songs from it. There's not a lot of crossover into the Billboard 100 with prog. And, it happened with Warner of Lonely Heart. It happened with Genesis, especially. Genesis is a perfect example of a bunch of prog guys that ended up writing great pop songs. It didn't really happen with King Crimson. They tried. Heartbeat's a great pop song. Hell, Ladies on the Road's a great pop song. There's pop all over Prague. But that's something that I feel is missing too for a lot of modern prog. Is that it's all, get your calculator out, and there, a lot of prog came from. In fact, this is important. The original concept of Yes is that they wanted it to be Simon and Garfunkel meets The Who. They wanted it to be the harmonies and songwriting of Simon and Garfunkel with the power of the lute. So, it's really, 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 really interesting that we were able to make that happen and then evolve into, topographic oceans, and then devolve into, the 80s thing, but always have that prog ethos, There's great moments on every Yes record, and I'm really excited about Aurora.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who, unless you go deep into Yes, and depending on, because they had their eras, kind of like Genesis had their eras, but they early on they covered Simon and Garfunkel, and did it in such a beautiful way. I mean, it's just a beautiful, exquisite piece of music that you can immerse yourself into.
That version of America is insane. But they were doing all sorts of covers in the beginning. They were covering Buffalo Springfield and Richie Havens, and all sorts of really cool things. And because they were just like the Beatles, they were also playing the club circuit, and they played originals and covers. But that's the cool thing about prog is there's also no rules, and there's a few other. Billy Sherwood could write a great song too. It's really, really cool that there's a lot variety in the world. And Kevin Gilbert was another perfect example. 1 minute he's working with Michael Jackson, next minute he's doing The Lamb live, with Giraffe, And I love that concept because I've played on some really poppy stuff. I played with Mika for a few shows. The Pop-Tart from England, Everybody's in Love Today was shown to me at my rehearsal studio in Miami. It's when we played that first show with him, and I've worked with some I played on a Jennifer Lopez single. Who could say that in the prog world? But that's just because also Miami, Yeah. There's not a lot of Jennifer Lopez King Crimson say yes crossover. But it's crazy. It's Peter Sinfeld wrote songs for Celine Dion, there's a lot of really interesting characters in prog. Let's not forget that Mel Collins played all the saxophones in the movie The Who's album.
To me, regardless of the genre, because people have styles and genres of music that resonate. I just think a well-crafted piece of music, whether it's a 20-minute prog piece or a 2.5-minute pop piece, as long as it's well made and well thought out and crafted, can resonate beyond the boundaries of its genre with people because of just our connection to sound. Would you agree with that, or do you have another perspective?
Hey man, that's the exact perspective I have. That's exactly the way I feel. And man, you know what? That's the beautiful thing about music. Before there were guardrails put, really, do you think any of these classical composers had boundaries? There's no genre. There was no thing, it's like, and the thing that sucks about the music industry is that uniqueness used to be rewarded. The bands that were getting signed didn't sound like anybody else. And now there's a lot of cookie cutter stuff going on. And it kind of blows my mind because, the world doesn't need, 20 pop artists that sound the same using the same producers and sometimes the same even sounds and everything. I love hearing stuff and going, I've never heard that before. I've never heard that combination before. And it's really cool. I love that.
I'm right there with you. I mean, that's one of the things that we try to focus on here on the podcast is bringing on artists who are doing something that they're adding something different and distinctive, and they're willing to take a chance to either find phenomenal success through it or get it really wrong, but that their desire to take the risk and try to stand out in a crowded field of sound. Really, really is something that I enjoy. I mean, that's how I found. I don't know if you've heard of Easy Band. They're out of Houston. They are doing. They're a Norteña Tejano band, but They are doing English language versions. So they blew up with a cover of Adele.
Wow!
And they are absolutely amazing. They light up a room. You see such a diverse audience showing up, right? That it feels good to you to know that there's hope in that in music and people willing to take that risk. And I love that about what artists do, so that it's not all vanilla, right? It's not just the same thing over and over.
I love it. Man, one of the biggest success stories of the last 6 months have been Regina Spektor. And my God, talk about a from coming in from left field. It's mostly instrumental. Actually, it's pretty much all instrumental. It's microtonal. It's prog, and they look like space aliens. And my favorite quote was from an interview with Billy Sherwood. It says, "I loved them before I even heard one note." And that's great because you know what? When they're using their music in sports TV shows and stuff, and they just got signed to Dave Matthews' label, ATO. They made it. They made it.
Yeah.
And they made it being themselves, doing something completely uncommercial. Yeah. But it's great music, and those guys are incredible. And man, their shows sell out in 5 minutes. Their shows are the secondary market. It's really crazy because I want to go see them on my birthday in LA, but the tickets are $350, and they were, that's on StubHub and stuff. And it's like, it's impossible to get into a lot of their shows.
Wow, yeah, they came out of left field, and then they just put rocket fuel in it, and it just took off for the world, and everyone's talking about it, and they're now doing, they've been playing over in Europe and the UK, I think, recently.
Yeah.
But now they got this whole US tour, and I would love for them. I don't think Dallas is on the list yet because I would have noted that, but hopefully they make it down to Dallas because I'd love to. I think that is truly a musical experience to be there and feel what they're doing, getting their vibe, which a lot of, these big, huge shows now in stadiums and stuff, you're just there amongst people who are there. But when you're in a smaller venue with people who have a purpose and a passion for what they're about to see, and that band gives that to them, I think it's a totally different emotional experience and worth every penny at this point. Because I just think that those are the special shows.
And the other thing is when you see these shots of the audience, they're having the time of their lives. And a lot of these people aren't prog people. But man, it's just amazing that they've crossed over into the zeitgeist to the point where people are, doing hundreds of covers and, on every instrument, and people dressing up like them, and people, making custom guitars. Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater just ordered a custom microtonal polka dot guitar.
Nice. Yeah,
it's so cool.
I love the fact that people go, I'm not entirely sure what this is, but I love it. And that's so special.
Amen. That's you have, it's, again, I said this earlier, it's like, well, you didn't know you wanted, and I love it because, the AI thing is really, really frightening, and it's so pasteurized, and it's great to have something that AI can never replicate, which is heart and soul and brain and creativity and sense of humor. Because that's one of the things that makes Regina Spektor so cool is that they're funny. They do some funny stuff on stage, and they've made some very funny content. And these characters, they're really committed to it. It's very cool.
Yeah, no, I think they're gonna. I mean, they're gonna be around for a while, and I think that they're really gonna find success far beyond any concept they had of what that could have been.
Yeah.
So they are going to be a great Canadian export.
Oh yeah, the world needed more Canadian exports, and there's been great music coming out of Canada forever now. And in fact, yeah, when we were going to talk about like bands I love, Quebec is not the first Quebecian band that I've fallen in love with this year. It's a band called Men I Trust, which is amazing, also from Quebec. So these, and also from Quebec is one of my favorite artists of all time, Gino Vanelli. So Gino Vanelli, Men I Trust, Karen Young and Donato and Young, and now and Julian de Poitrine. Go Quebec.
And going to the other side of the country, one of my favorite Canadian bands, and when I have Canadian guests on, I have to tease them about the government requirements of the bands they name. So Rush, Bryan Adams, Neil Young, but Sloan is one of my favorite. Sloan.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is, and here's one of the funny things about rock and roll is you could win someone over and lose them in 30 seconds if you name the wrong album. And I've been told that the album I love from Sloan is their worst album. Action-packed.
Huh.
And
really?
Literally, there's a Sloan mega fan I know, and he's like, that's garbage. That's major legal garbage. Navy Blues. Navy Blues. And I'm like, I'm not going to listen to anything with blues in the title. I'm sorry. You want to lose me? Trigger word. Blues. It's a good record. The one that I also like is also Never Hear the End of It. And
yes. Never Hear the End of It. That's probably my favorite. Never Hear the End of It.
That's a great
love that album.
And I have heard the end of it because I committed. But yeah, Action Packed is my favorite. That record is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Cover.
I'm curious, and I know we've been on a while, and you've got a busy day, but I want to ask you if you heard this because I love an opinion on it.
I could do another 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you heard the new Social Distortion?
I saw them live recently. Actually, I provided some gear for John Hyatt's daughter, who opened up for them, and I thought they were fantastic. But I'd love to hear the new record.
The new record is absolutely, I think it's their strongest. And then halfway in the middle of it, they cover Chris Isaak.
What? Which one?
Wicked Game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it comes at you because I'm looking, I was out on a run and I was looking at the songs and I'm like, wait a minute, could it be? And then it just came on. I'm like, holy cow. So it's definitely one to, I want, since you got to go soon, I want to hit on something that I've loved about following your social media. I think it was about a year or so ago, you decided to kind of change some of your health habits and you started walking every day.
Yeah.
And
listening to a new record every day.
Talk to me about how that moment or the finding out that it was time to change your health impacted you and the experience that you have by doing that with a different album a day and what that brings you.
Well, it's win-win. I get to listen to new music and I get to be less of a fat ass. So, you know what? It actually worked out great. I need to get back into it because, my schedule's gotten too crazy to be able to walk every day, but I try to walk as much as I can. And I tell you, I've discovered a lot of artists. I've also discovered a lot of things about myself. And, most of it is great, but I have had some moments where I had to change something because I just had an adverse reaction to it. But man, I've discovered some great music that I'm stuck with. And I love it, I love writing about music. I've got a journalism degree, so, I always knew I could, if I had to fall back on something, I haven't had to, knock on wood, but I could always write for the magazine. And I have done that. I've written for Keyboard Magazine, I've written for Rock Seller, a few other people. But, I just love music, and I love checking out new sounds, and it's inspired me, Men I Trust was one of the bands I discovered, and I fell for them. And I ended up having to look up their pedals and stuff because I wanted some of that sound. And hey, you know what? Clouds came from some of the guitar sounds from Men I Trust. You know, well, it actually came from a lot of things. Open Sky from the third Flash album, Peter Banks. It came from the volume swell guitar styles of Steve Keaton with Tino Fatorianos. But also Men I Trust. It kind of brought back this whole world where it's like granular delay, um, open streamer reverb, stuff like that. So I use all that stuff on my records. But yeah, so it opened up my sound palette, which is really cool.
Nice.
But yeah, it's all good stuff.
And life has its way of telling you when you need to open up to new things and try new things. So I'm glad for that. And if you're not following his socials, go for it, because you will get opened up to all of that music, and you'll learn about artists that you've never heard of. Before we wrap up, a couple things. One, everybody watching, everybody who's stuck with us, we've covered a lot of topics. We've been here to there. Links below. Go out and buy his music. Support him. If you see that Fernando is playing in a city near you, buy a ticket. Support him. Support the artist that he tours with. See Marshall Crenshaw. See him with Dave Kerzner. Wherever you can take in that joy and love of music that I've seen that he has, go do it. You will feel better about yourself, and you're going to help him continue on his creative journey. So that's most important, and the links will be down below.
Bandcamp is a good place to go. Bandcamp is a good place to go. Everything's on it.
Perfect. We'll have Bandcamp down below. You have had an illustrious career, having an opportunity to work with so many people. But I'm always fascinated because whether it's a bucket list, or maybe you have what do those people make, those dream boards or whatever? You may have something where you tack it on a wall going, I have a goal. Is there an artist that you've not worked with that you've wanted to get into a studio today, it was for one day, and be creative with, and why are they at the top of your list?
Judy Zook. Top, number one. And I met her recently in London, and she was absolutely amazing. And I learned a lot about her. But that's the voice I hear. Stephen Bishop. That's another person I've always wanted to write with, always wanted to work with. I would love to work with David Clayton Thomas of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I know Billy got to work with him, so I'm jealous. Billy Sherwood. But, I love singers. And Judy Zook's voice, if you've never heard of Judy Zook, she is an incredible artist from London who was discovered by Elton John. And she had a top 10 hit called Stay With Me Till Dawn. And she's had an incredible career in England, but she hasn't crossed over to the States. And the best way to describe her is, if you like Kate Bush, imagine Kate Bush style music with Annie Lennox style vocals. A warmer voice.
Oh my! I gotta go find her.
I'm not kidding. No. Put on the album Welcome to the Cruise, her first album, and her second album, which blows my mind. That's the proggiest one, which is called Sports Car. You're gonna lose it. She's amazing, and we've almost worked together a few times, and hopefully it happens because she still sings great. Her newest album, Jude the Unsinkable, is incredible, and she's just glorious. And Stephen Bishop's still making great music. His last album was really wonderful, called Think. That's another one I listen to on my walks. Paul McCartney is the ultimate. And man, he's on my mind because I started the day listening to Boys in Dungeon Lane. Came out today.
Me too.
And that record is 4 out of 5 to me. 4 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
That first song, oh man. That lay down, lay down. That's worth the price of admission. That's the best Paul McCartney song since Memory Almost Full.
It's an incredible album. I downloaded it this morning. I've gotten away from buying, pre-ordering and just getting a song because I want the experience. So I waited till today and bought it this morning, and I've listened to it twice, and it's going to be on heavy rotation this weekend. But I think you've given me some more music to purchase, and purchasing music is what it's about, everybody. I want you to go down to the links below and support Fern. I want you to help him continue to create and make more music. And dude, let's do this again sometime, because we've just barely scraped the surface on rabbit holes that we go down music.
You had mentioned in our pre-jam, so you want me to mention artists that need to get discovered. I have some artists I'd like to push.
Absolutely.
Need to get them discovered. There's a band called Improvement Movement from Atlanta. They also just got signed to ATO Records. And it's Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Yes. That's the sound. That's the sound that dubbed them. Wow. It's Prog-influenced Americana power pop. 4-part harmony, incredible songs, incredible musicianship. And they got viral because they had a couple of songs that they recorded live in the middle of nowhere. A song called Too Far and a song called On the Bus. Listen to Too Far and then listen to On the Bus. And it's kind of like somebody passing you weed or something and then you become a pothead. If you don't become a lifelong fan of that band after hearing those two songs, you don't like music. And that's one of the best shows I've ever seen. It's all the things I love about seeing Wilco with more accessible songwriting. Huh. It's just incredible.
Check them out.
Obviously, I'm a huge Lemon Twigs fan. I've been a Lemon Twigs fan now for 10 years because their first album came out in 2016. And I was at their first LA show. And that day, I saved them with a piece of gear that I had in my car, a sustain pedal, and I became lifelong friends with their keyboard player, now bass player, Danny Ayala. And I produced his new album called Only Fools Love Again. And if you love the Lemon Twigs, you're going to love Danny Ayala. He's amazing. DANNYAYLA. And he's been in the band forever now. He's not an official member, but he's on the new record, which, by the way, the new Lemon Twigs album, Look Through My Mind, is incredible. But his new record is fantastic. Keith Mooney just had a new single come out today called Underground. And she's a Scottish singer-songwriter, producer, guitarist. We co-produced her new album coming out called It Really Real. And that's just phenomenal. I think you need to check that out. I think it's incredible. Men I Trust put out 2 albums this year. Talk about prolific. And they're incredible. They're so incredible. I love them. There's a lot of really cool things. But I'm really impressed with new music. And I'm really happy with what's going on with music. Because, again, it's not about hits. It's about making great music. And that's more important to me.
I think when you aren't trying to make a hit, you can make better music. And I think we're seeing a lot of that because it's not about making a hit for a label anymore. It's making the music you want to make and finding that audience and really honing that craft. And I see that in a lot of bands because I feel the way you do. What's going on out there in music, and those who are really putting in the effort are definitely reaping the reward of bringing in audiences and making incredible sounds.
Awesome.
So,
all right. Man, this is a lot of fun.
We will do this again at some point. But I appreciate you making time. I'm probably gonna get back to that McCartney album today and start downloading those other things. Everybody, if you joined us today, please go and support his music. You've got to hear it. You're gonna love it. I can't say thank you enough. This has been a lot of fun. I'm sorry it took us so long, but we finally got it together and we'll do it again. Everybody, thanks for hanging with us. And please, in this day and world, go out, show yourself some love and grace and kindness, give it to others. It's the greatest gift you can ever provide, and you get so much back for it. So until we see each other again, Fern, thanks so much. It's been great. Take it easy.
Thanks, Scott. Have a good day, man.
You too.